A digital pass developed by the International Chamber of Commerce with International SOS could be the key to restarting international and cross-border travel and business. Joining me now is the Secretary-General of the International Chamber of Commerce, live from Paris, John Denton. John, great to see you. What is all this? What have you actually developed here?
Oh, look, thanks very much. It's great to be with you. I just heard the report about plus 35. I think we're at just hitting 8 degrees in Paris today, so I'm very jealous.
John, 45, I'm sure you missed it.
45, oh my God, we're way out of line. What we're trying to do here is restore global mobility. One of the things the International Chamber of Commerce is famous for is enabling business worldwide. We're an institution 100 years old, a not-for-profit. We're the institutional voice actually of 45 million businesses globally in the developed and developing world. So we have a big responsibility, but our aim is always to get business moving because it's good for communities, it's good for families, it's good for the world for actually business to be operating effectively. And the collapse of mobility has been a killer. And so what we've been trying to do is re-establish the global value chain around travel and tourism. And what's been stopping tourists and people actually wanting to travel is actually fear of being infected on a plane, concern about quarantine at the end, and actually a whole set of different regulations that are operating globally. What we've sought to do is create a policy framework which enables one standard to operate to support the restoration of global travel. And that is the creation of a digital card, which is actually called ICC AOKpass, which is based on blockchain, enables a digital verification of an individual's COVID-19 status, and will not let you on a plane unless you actually have a negative rating, which is then revealed through a QR status. We determine the status of a person based on what a government requires for a person to enter their jurisdiction. What we're creating effectively is a digital rails to enable that to happen. And what we want is this to happen globally. And we're delighted that today we're actually will be part of a no quarantine corridor that will operate between New York City and Rome. So we will be the enabling digital pass, ICC AOKpass, which will support Delta Airlines and Alitalia for their first quarantine-free flights from New York's JFK to Fiumicino. And that's really important because that will be the first 100% COVID-free flight. And as a consequence, there will be no requirement for quarantine. And look, we know it's not the end of the story because with vaccines coming, etc., and the ICC AOKpass, we've already tested it in the Philippines with vaccines. We can actually also certify traceability and give traceability to vaccines as well. So we're getting ready for that. But at the moment, in the absence of that, we need to ensure that there's appropriate risk management. And the way we're doing that is by the utilization of this digitally enabled ICC AOKpass. And we're pleased that it's being used.
Yeah, John, look, I have a limited knowledge of blockchain. I'm not going to get you to explain it here on First Edition, but essentially this comes down to buy-in, doesn't it? That governments and individuals need to trust in this pass. What guarantees have you been given from various jurisdictions?
Well, I mean, like all these things, you move at the speed of trust. I mean, ICC, we are an institution of 100 years. We are a not-for-profit. We always have a seat at the UN. We are highly trusted. So when we enter this discussion with governments, they know we're doing this for the greater good. We're creating a global public good here. And what we want governments to do is determine effectively what the standards of risk they're prepared to take. Some governments want no risk whatsoever. In fact, they'll keep their borders closed. Others, and this is where you look at a country like Italy, which depends so much on tourism, has to get some form of risk management in place. The best form of risk management that we've been able to work with them and with our health advisors and with our standards advisors is actually pre-departure testing. And actually what we're able to do then, but there must be pre-departure testing for everyone at the moment getting on the flight. That may change over time as there's a mix of other things that come in, but there's governments that are actually making those decisions. What's pleasing, we've been working with the G20 as well. The G20 is now calling, as we have asked them to do, for global coordination on this. And so hopefully we'll get this moving more frequently. We're also doing this in the developing world. So we're doing it between Abu Dhabi and Pakistan. And we're about to start this on road with transport around through the Central American republics, where what's happened there is there's been a collapse in trade because truck drivers can't pass across borders, and now we're able to utilise this tool as well.
Yeah.
So the trust is the key here, and that's why the ICC is involved.
A really different story in Europe, of course, because there's so many shared borders. Australia, an island nation, has taken almost an elimination strategy here. But it was interesting to see this week, John, I know you would have seen this, Qantas and Alan Joyce flagging, but if you want to get on a Qantas flight, you need to get the vaccine once it's available. Is there a similar story around the world with international airlines and even governments saying if you want to travel overseas, if you want to come back, you need to get a vaccine?
Well, for a start, the vaccines are actually not in a position where they can be rolled out. I sit on the COVAX Act A Council, which is looking at this very issue. But what Alan said, of course, Alan is an extremely well-respected global CEO in aviation, but in any field anyway. And what Qantas says really matters. And we fully understand that what the Australian government wants is the most minimal risk possible, which will be the requirement for vaccines, and therefore the national carrier will be looking at that. But there's a long way to go, hopefully not that long, but at the moment there's still a long way to go till vaccines are going to be available, not just in the developed world, but certainly in the developing world, which is one of the great concerns. And in the absence of that, we do have to come up with best practice, which is what we're doing about safety. And that's where an interoperable play like ICC AOKpass, which fully protects an individual's medical records. We don't hold them; they stay with the individual. Is actually and is actually relatively easy to use because it's QR coded, and people are much more familiar with that. Becomes one of the most useful tools that can be used to open up travel and enable the aviation sector, but importantly the tourism sector as well, which has been smashed by COVID. I mean, we're talking about 190 million jobs lost. Most of those jobs are jobs for women, and many of those jobs are for young people. So these are really big problems. And this is actually happening not just in the developed world, and you probably don't see this that much, but also it's been devastating in the developing world. And we have lots of companies who are part of the 45 million that are part of the ICC, who are in sub-Saharan Africa, in Arab countries, in Asia, in Latin America and Central America. The tool we're developing has to be globally scalable and has to have this risk management capacity to get this travel happening again, because these countries will not be able to have the same ready access to the vaccine as a number of developed countries.
Yeah, there's still a long way to go, isn't there, John? Well, enjoy your time. Stay safe there in Paris. I'm sure you're missing home. Thanks for your time.